So our first speaker is Bill Spadea. And Bill Spadea is a radio host on New Jersey 101 Morning Drive Show, where he uses this as an opportunity to promote disobedience and non-compliance with the COVID regime. So please join with me in welcoming Bill Spadea.
Bear with me, I'm going to unravel this. As many of you know, I like to walk. Guys, great to be here. I want to thank Jim for that great introduction. Give him a round of applause. Great guy. Also, do me a favor, give a round of applause to my good friend Dan O'Neill, who has done an unbelievable job. Now, that is a freedom fighter, right? How many of you consider yourselves freedom fighters? Right? All right, so I'm going to tell you a quick story. So Jim brought it up. I'm the morning host on New Jersey 101.5. And a couple of things. First of all, go back to February in 2020. And all of you are sitting there thinking, okay, holidays are over, getting ready for spring, March Madness around the corner. And then the China virus comes. And a lot of politicians wanted to point the finger right away at China and politicize it. The problem with that was it ignored the real assault on our liberty as Americans, which was the American government response to the China virus. What happened was, people say, we finally got out of COVID. COVID locked us down. COVID did this. COVID didn't do any of that. Right. Your government did that. Your government did that. Your state government, your federal government, a lot of your local governments. So I remember seeing all these propaganda videos coming out of China and being regurgitated on the evening news to get people all ginned up and scared and panicked, and Dr. Fauci saying millions and millions will die, and a couple of university professors and researchers in Europe telling us that, well, based on their calculation, there should be 7 million deaths by the end of the year. I mean, just outrageous stuff that did not compute when it came to science and logic. So in February of 2020, I made the bold statement to say we should not lock down, we should not cancel March Madness, we should not do anything but make sure, like we did in 2018 with the bad flu season, make sure you have enough doctors to treat the vulnerable, etc. And almost every week from February on, management at the station I work for, we're owned by a big company, big corporate, said, you keep this up, you're going to get fired. You're disagreeing with Anthony Fauci. You're disagreeing with every known scientist out there. I said, well, except for the ones that have been canceled on social media, except for the ones that you won't air on any of the major stations, except for them, because I stand with them. At the time, and this is the good news that I come to bring today. At the time, my ratings, my market share was a 4.2. Now what that means in radio world is if you're between a 3.5 and a 5, you got a pretty good show. A lot of people are listening. And every day they hammered me, every day. Within 6 months, we got to the summer of 2020. My market share went from a 4.2 to a 9.2. We more than doubled. Now what does that mean? It's not about me, it's not about traffic and weather, it's not about the entertainment value of the show, it's about the message. That what I was saying about freedom and liberty and our own ability to make our own medical choices, etc., were resonating with the majority of the people out there. That's what it meant. That's the good news. Don't let them tell you somehow New Jersey is some blue state beyond repair and beyond the ability to protect your liberty. It is not. Let me take you fast forward to 2022, 2021. And real quick say this, that the company we were all in, because all of you were at home watching this unfold, watching people locked away in their homes, watching churches close, businesses close, gyms close, other than Attila's gym. Ian Smith is here. How about that hero? Get the vote out for this man and get him into Congress. But while you watched all this unfold, and the government got more and more and more powerful, crushing civil liberties, medical freedom choices, economic liberties, all of it, there was a doctor named Daniel Murphy. Now, how many of you have heard of Daniel Murphy? I figured. None of you. Daniel Murphy was the head of emergency medicine at St. Barnabas in the Bronx. He wrote an article at the end of April that the New York Post published. Not one media outlet picked this up. But I read this article. It said something very simple. He said, the health crisis that we faced with this virus that was unknown in April and March ended at 5 p.m. on April 7th. Now that is oddly specific. Here's why he said that. At 5 p.m. on April 7th, 2020, he said, we had more hospital beds than patients. Now think about that for a minute. In 2020, February and March, what was the government telling you? The reason you have to lock down, the reason you have to be careful so you don't kill your neighbor, is we don't have enough supplies, we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough beds. And how many of you remember Governor Murphy? He's not here today, I don't think. Right? How many of you remember Governor Murphy walking down the corridor in all of these empty Army hospitals that were set up to handle the overflow? Empty beds, rows of them, hundreds of them, empty. The Navy hospital ship Comfort sailed into New York Harbor to save the day. It left a little while later empty, having not been used. We never had the health crisis that they told us we were going to have. That's the bottom line. And you got to start with that premise when we start talking about our medical freedom. Because after all of that, they told you to mask up. Then they told you to jab. How many of you have faced discrimination at your job because you refused to take the jab? Right, let me hear you. Let me hear you. Right? Outrageous. Outrageous. Some people quit. Many could not. So I'll tell you a quick story before I talk about what happened in the 2021 election and why it's important that we are here today and our voices are heard. So during the whole crisis that was exacerbated by government that was over in 3 weeks, but they didn't want to tell you that because they wanted to hold on and increase their power, the radio station said, we want everyone to work at home for safety. I refused. I said, nope, I'm coming into the studio. As long as there's got to be a person there pushing buttons to make sure I'm on the air, I'm coming in. And my morning crew all agreed. And we all went to work every day as normal. Empty building, empty roads, the commute was great. And all of that. And then a funny thing happened. The bureaucrats decided that it was safe in the fall to come back to work. So we get the call, it's safe to come back to work. I said, well, I think it's been safe the entire time, but we can agree to disagree. They said, but in order to protect everyone, you've got to mask up. We have to keep social distance. 2 people in the kitchen at one time, and I said, hold on, stop right there. Here's what's going to happen. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not keeping distance. If you impose those rules, I'll take the show and I'll broadcast from home. So I did. So I took the show. So all of a sudden we had the reverse. Everybody else went back to work. I went home refusing to comply. So then a funny thing happened. The word got around that there was talk of a vaccine mandate. Most national radio companies, television companies, etc., all of them in New York, said, we're going to enforce, for your safety, everyone has to get vaccinated. So you're going to love this. I write an article. I call the article A Line in the Sand. And in the article, I said, not only am I not taking the vaccine, but I'm not masking, and I'm not testing. Not once, not weekly, not ever. And I drew that line in the sand and I write the article. Now, while I'm on the air, now we've got, the station has 1.5 million listeners. We're the biggest voice, the biggest mic in this area. So, I write it. Before I'm off the air that day, it gets posted by the company. Corporate IT guys post it. They push it out on Facebook, Twitter, goes everywhere. I get a call after the show from my lawyer. He said, Bill, I just want to clarify something here. The line you're drawing is with your own company? I said, yeah. He said, they shared it everywhere. Well, it turns out they didn't read the article. How about that? So the next day, they're at a corporate investor meeting. We're a public company. And everyone's phone at the meeting starts buzzing because they have my show on an alert. Whenever we're mentioned, whenever 1015 is mentioned, it goes buzzing because the radio trade magazines all picked up the article saying, did everybody see this? The top morning guy said he's going to quit if you force the vaccine. So blows up the investor meeting. I get the call. You're not quitting, are you? You're not really quitting, are you? I say, well, that all depends on you. And let me tell you, here I stand a year later, no vaccine mandate at that company, no masks, no testing, nothing. Now, that battle was not won for me. It was won for the staff, for the guys who clean the bathrooms and keep the kitchen going. It's done for all of the people that are working week to week, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to make ends meet in this great state. So thank you for that. That was a battle. And let me tell you this. If you fight, you will win. How do you deal with a bully on the playground? In the old days, you'd punch him in the face. Now, I don't know what happens. I think there's like a bullying coordinator. There are forms you fill out. I don't know. There's a board review. But in the old days, you gave him a shot, and that was the end. And that's how we have to treat government and these woke corporations today. Now, things have gotten somewhat out of control. Disney has decided to join the chorus of voices saying that we should sexualize grade schoolers. Think about that. Awful. We've got government in Trenton and in Washington that not only support this nonsense, but they are doubling down. I can't for the life of me figure out why in the midterm elections the Democratic Party has decided to make the sexualizing of children the hill they're going to die on. But let's make them pay in November 2022. Actually, let's make them pay in June 2022. Now, let me give you a quick story. I know I'm going to run out of time, but indulge me if you will. November 2021, actually it really was September 2021, the world's eyes were on New Jersey. Will New Jersey throw out the Democratic governor? Will New Jersey rebel against the lockdowns, the mandates, etc.? Well, we all know what happened at the top of the ticket. And I can tell you, I am a registered Republican. I've been a Republican my whole life. That annoys the Republican establishment. They have hoped for a long time that I would go third party, go independent, but I'm not going to do it. I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican because that's the best and largest and strongest vehicle to beat the Democrats and the socialists. That's why I'm a Republican. Now, it matters, though, who you nominate. In September 2020, Jack Ciattarelli was running for governor, and he was 6, 7, 10 points down. And I reached out to him, called him. I'm good friends with his pollster, Adam Geller, who was also Trump's pollster. And I said, guys, you're running a campaign against taxes. I'm going to be real blunt. Nobody cares about taxes right now. They care about protecting their children, preserving their rights as parents and business owners. A third of our businesses were closed at the time. That's what they care about. So I went to them and I gave them 6 points. And I said, if you can agree to these points, I'd love to turn the strength of my show and our station and my audience 1.5 million strong to get you over the top and beat Phil Murphy. Do you know they couldn't agree to one? The first one was, can you agree, you're going to love this, can you agree to an executive order on day one to say that children should not be forced to wear a mask? Nope. Couldn't do it. Can you agree to redline and line item veto the $9 million that Planned Parenthood takes from taxpayers? Nope. Wouldn't agree to that. I said, all right, how about this? Low-hanging fruit. We've got firefighters in Newark who are being fired for not taking the vaccine. Will you come to the rally that we put together with the union and stand up for these firefighters? That one was tricky. They said, yes, we'll go. Then they showed up 2 hours late. The rally was over. They blamed me for not giving them the right time. That was who the Republican Party put up. So I can tell you, and I don't apologize for this, I did not support nor did I vote for Jack Ciattarelli in the 2021 election. And that's not because I supported Phil Murphy, obviously. It's because the only way to turn this state around is to do it from the ground up. The only way to save our kids, our schools, our businesses, our communities, our country is to start at the bottom. So what do? We launched something called the Common Sense Club. And we started at the bottom. And hundreds of local candidates, moms and dads, running for the first time, won election at the local level. School boards, Board of Education, council, commissioner, across the board. And then we turned our attention on the Assembly and the Senate. 3 new Senate seats, including someone you know. Do I have to even say it? Ed the Trucker, baby. Ed the Trucker is now a state senator, defeating the most powerful legislator in Trenton at the time, Steve Sweeney. We are now 5 seats away from a majority in the Senate and 7 in the Assembly. And we ignored the top of the ticket. And Jack lost, and it's good. Because I am old enough to remember Christine Todd Whitman. I'm old enough to remember Chris Christie, 2 Republicans who betrayed the principles of everything that all of you believe in, who didn't stand up for families, didn't stand up for firefighters and cops and teachers and local businesses. It's time to nominate strong, patriotic fighters to take this country back. Now, one of them is going to join you in a little bit. Thank you. Ian Smith. That's one of them. We've also got guys like Phil Rizzo, who's taking on Tom Kaine Jr. We've got Mike Crispy, who is taking on Chris Smith, who just voted with Biden and Pelosi for some unknown reason. And if we build this from the ground up, and if we say we're not going to tolerate liberal establishment Republicans who take the crumbs off the Democrat table and say we're going to stand together as patriots, we're going to stand together as libertarians, for me, small L, but true libertarians that believe that freedom is what we are fighting for. Freedom is what our forefathers fought for. Freedom is what our first responders stand for. Freedom. This coming war is about freedom. And I'll leave you with this note. Common Sense Club started just a few months ago. We now have more than 40,000 members. 40,000. And we're growing at a rate of 1,500 every week. In the last quarter, we just out-fundraised the New Jersey Republican Party. So change is coming. How about that? People want change. They want leadership. We've got a plan to take this state back over the next 3 years. Stick with me, and I'll talk to you Monday morning at 6. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry. No problem.
Thank you, Bill Spadea. Let's have another round of applause for Bill.